What is going on, YouTube? This is Ask the Root. So I'm going to review the debut EP by Konceal, which is called The Way the World Ends. And this basically came out in either late 2016 or early 2017, somewhere around that time. But I found this group because I was looking up b.lay guest verses. I wanted to see some more stuff that b.lay did, see if I could find any more projects by him. But he did do a guest feature on this project, and I decided to check them out because I do like electronic and industrial kind of music. But basically, Konceal, to talk about them, they're kind of an amalgamation of a number of electronic bands. They definitely remind me of Daft Punk, Powerman 5000, and Orgy. They just kind of have like that kind of over the top, kind of dissonant and kind of futuristic kind of sound that like Daft Punk and Orgy kind of do, and they're kind of caught up in that mentality. If you're looking for something that's kind of relevant and more down to earth and kind of with the times, you're not going to really find that with this project. But it does have a pretty cool robotic voice. The Konceal group has a nice robotic voice that just gives off some real futuristic vibes if you want to take a vacation from some of the mentalities that kind of go along. And it just sounds like something ripped out of like the 2100s or something. Definitely really futuristic. I like the concept behind it, but I kind of would have liked, of course, some better party songs because in this brief 5-song project, there's not a bunch of songs to really dance to. And I think the only real complaint about this project I really have is just the fact that it's kind of powerful in the sense of its futuristic kind of vibe. And when it's not recreational, it kind of loses some of its value because it just makes you question what is kind of going along with this sort of movement, which it just doesn't have as much emphasis when it's not something recreational to have. But I'm going to go ahead and recommend the 3 songs out of 5 I recommend. So those three songs would be Never Falling Down, New World Order, and Inside Your Dreams. So the first song I'm going to talk about is Never Falling Down, and this has guest vocals from b.lay on here. And basically this is just a version of like a b.lay song. It's kind of a hustle song. It's a nice electronic kind of song, but it's just kind of a b.lay sounding song, definitely similar to the stuff that he does. It just sounds like it's ripped out of 2150 or something. If you ever wanted b.lay from his West Coast kind of oriented, laid back kind of songs on something like that's ripped out of the future, this is definitely a song for that sort of thing. Because it's basically b.lay's and his lyrics kind of made it as kind of like a struggle slash hustle song, just got to get out and get it and that sort of thing. And it kind of works. I like this concept because it's probably the most down to earth song out off this Konceal album. So it kind of made it a little bit more pitched, and I definitely could see this song as being a single. It has like these cool electronic vocals on here, and Konceal the group on its robotic vocals in addition to b.lay kind of makes it for a nice pitch, and it's an overall electronic hit, very similar to Orgy and Daft Punk. I just really like the concept behind it. Easy kind of weekend tune is probably the most central one off of this whole project that I would recommend in terms of just where it's down to earth and it kind of has that vibes, but it's still kind of futuristic and kind of distorted and like the heavy kind of industrial and electronic that it needs. This is probably the best song on the album, I would have to say, but that's not saying that the other ones I recommend aren't good. So Inside Your Dreams is the next song I recommend, and this is a very sleek kind of electronic type tune. This is more dance ready. It's definitely a jive, has a slow tempo on here. It's not like a quick tempo ravenous kind of dance, really shake your ass kind of furious kind of dance, but it just has kind of like a mild mid-tempo, high slow tempo kind of song, and it just has some punch in there. I just really feel like it has screaming in here. Like Konceal does a real good job of adding the screamo vocals on this song, but this is the most dance oriented cut on here. It's the most appropriate for stepping out and kind of having a time, and they definitely needed more songs like this, because if they would have had more songs like Never Falling Down and Inside Your Dreams, this would have been a wholesome kind of recommendation. But that's just kind of the concept. It's just a highlight, but it's basically the only real song apart from New World Order that really has like any dance vibe towards it. But the third song I recommend, New World Order, this is kind of a dusky kind of song. It just feels really something you listen to at dusk, and this kind of more distorted evening kind of twilight kind of feels towards it. But it has really good screaming on this song. I really like the screamo vocals on here, and to me it just kind of came off as like an alternative blue collar song. I'm kind of looking between two computers, that's why I'm looking off, but this is an example of one where I think it's kind of blue collared. It just has simple approach where it's just I question whether or not this was a single, but it's just such a basic approach, and it's not really a dance tune or a stepping out weekend kind of tune. It's not a hustle song either, but I just kind of feel like this is one that I would listen to just in a blue collar sense. I mean, this could almost be minus the screamo vocals. I would say this is pretty much the most approachable workaday kind of blue collar song, but it just kind of does it in an alternative sense. That just kind of happens to be a thing. But I do like the fact that they at least tried to make something blue collar and workaday as far as that kind of went. But it's just kind of, I mean, this is such a brief project that you get a taste of what you want, and it's just like, damn, you want more of these. I mean, I know that they did later on drop an album. I'm just gonna have to see about it, but it's just kind of the concept. So to talk about the two songs I didn't enjoy, which is just Life After Death and Blue Beam Project, I just feel like these songs are too sprawling and spacey for my taste. I just think the futuristic style needed something that kind of brought it more down to earth and had it more recreational. I mean, I do like the pitch and the overall creativity of the band, but I just kind of feel like the overt style is kind of intense and a lot to deal with compared to like the normal compactness. Like I at least feel like a band like Orgy understood to kind of make like dance tunes like the sing like Blue Monday and the songs that they made off of their Candy Ass album and some of those type ones that just kind of had more of like a kind of recreational pitch just for stepping out and kind of more dance oriented. This needed something a little bit more recreational and kind of that sort of pitch, because that's what electronic and industrials kind of for, is these kind of weekend kind of rave tunes. And when you get it in like a different sense where it's not meant for like a Friday night rave or a Thursday night dance club or something like that, it just kind of lowers the value and kind of makes you wonder. I mean, is this industrial slash electronic is kind of a weird vibe to listen to when it's not for the weekend or stepping out. It just kind of has like an odd sense. It's just not very good ruminating music and good house cleaning music and good workaday kind of chores getting done and responsibilities and errand paying kind of music. It just doesn't have that same pitch, especially in the kind of overcast futuristic kind of really talking about things that are just not worldly and that type of stuff. It just doesn't really have the context of being something that has very much relatability overall. But that's just kind of the thing. So I would have to say me liking 3 out of 5 songs on this project and me really liking these, especially in the pitch of how they happen. I would just have to go ahead and say I'm going to give this record a 6.25 out of 10. I feel like that's good enough. I really like the b.lay song, really like the lone dance song Inside Your Dreams. I kind of like the blue collar vibe of New World Order, but it just needed maybe like one more song and a single. I don't know if there were any singles from this project, but there needed to be. I definitely feel like with all the budget that they had, they definitely should have put out like a music video or something to kind of promote the project. So I just feel like it's just too like underground. I mean, I like underground, but this is kind of overtly where it just didn't even try to break even. And I just wonder like the context of how what they could have gone forward with to really get their name out there more. It just felt like it just needed a lot more broadcasting than what it kind of dealt with. As a result, because of that, I'm only going to give the social score like a 3 out of 10 because it does have some quality on here, but I just don't know if there's any real song that would be broadcast to radio. They seem like really low key, beneath the point of being played on radio, and they just don't have like the overabundance of like hits to really suggest. I mean, it's definitely stepping out, but they're just not quite as vivid of like party animals as I would have liked. And then on top of that, the kind of overcast, kind of overt kind of futuristic mentality is a little bit more to deal with, than maybe not wholesomely more to deal with, but just a notch or two more heavy than what it probably needed to be. So that's just kind of the concept. But in terms of the future, like Konceal has dropped some projects. There's not an overabundance of information about this group. There's not an overabundance of information about this group. I really struggled to even figure out the track listing and like the singles, which I couldn't find whether or not there were singles from this project. So there's just not an overabundance of like information about the albums they've dropped and how many they've dropped and the sort of music videos and the stuff that they've done with their career. So it's just kind of, this is really just like shots in the dark here, and I kind of feel like I want some information to be seen about this album because it does have some good stuff, but it's just you just have to take in the complaints that I had with it in addition to the fun parts.